Curveball drilled to deep left center field, headed back toward the wall, and it's out of here! Francisco Alvarez's first big league hit is a long home run!
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shea Station podcast. It is episode 105. It is Thursday, October 6th, and no, the season isn't over. There's still baseball left to be played this year, Mets fans. We've finished 162 with a sweep of the Nationals, but now we're looking ahead towards the National League wildcard series. The Braves won 2 of 3. They locked up the division in the NL East, but the Mets are not out of it, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm Jack, a.k.a. Joelli. Joining me from Ohio, getting a brief family day in, is Jerry Blevins. Jerry, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Joelli, shout out to you for accommodating my jaunt to Ohio.
Come on.
I was scheduled originally. We were going to go into studio, but I got homesick because I haven't been home enough in a while. So it's been probably the longest time I've been away. So I was like, Jolly, I'm leaving. Can we record later via Zoom? And he was cool. So I appreciate you, man.
Oh, I was super cool with it. One, because this is like the first day in a week I haven't gone to the office, which is nice. But also, two, I get to see my family all the time. And I get it. If I didn't get to see them for near a month, it'd drive me nuts as well. So I'm very glad you got a day at home.
Literal day. It'll be I'm flying back in the morning for some pregame postseason stuff. So I'm excited.
He's a dedicated Mets fan and a dedicated dad. We're going to speed through this Mets sweep of the Nationals because we got bigger fish to fry. I'm going to take it all, if that's cool with you, Jerry.
Nail it.
Let's do it.
You can have your first game too.
So, my first game too, literally ever. How exciting is that? All right, so the Mets welcomed into the Nationals. We got the remnants of the hurricane, so it's raining, it's gray in New York, and the stadium is empty. In Game 1, the division hopes were still alive, and the Mets got it done, 4-2 victory. Brandon Nimmo went 3 for 5 with 3 RBI in his 15th home run of the year, and the Mets bullpen took care of business. Drew Smith, David Peterson, Adam Ottavino, and Edwin Diaz combined for 5 shutout innings after Cookie throws 4. They get 4 strikeouts and a save for Edwin. Game 2, the Mets steamrolled the Nats in the second leg of a doubleheader, 8-0. They led off this game with 3 home runs in a row from Nimmo, Lindor, and Mcneil, dropping 7 in the first off Paolo Espino, who finishes the season 0-9. That's pretty tough. Taiwan Walker, it's been long a talking point for who's going to get that game 4 ball. I don't think it's a talking point anymore. Taiwan strikes out 10 batters in 4 1/3 innings to solidify his spot. If the Mets do reach that NLDS, which we're hoping they do, the second half woes were kind of a theme, but he finishes his last 5 starts with a 3.03 ERA. Can't ask for more than that from Taiwan. Francisco Alvarez got in the game in the blowout for Nimmo, and he homers for his first MLB hit off Carl Edwards Jr. Not a bad pitcher there. He adds a double later on. He's the third Met to homer in their first homer for their first hit this season, joining Nick Plummer and Brett Beatty as well. Tyler McGill tossed 2 shutout relief innings. He was placed on the injured list after this game, so his playoff roster hopes are dwindling a little bit. And Brandon Nimmo, who did not start Game 3, finishes the year on a 5-game hit streak, 10 for 20, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBI. He gets his OPS up to 800 to end the season, which is very nice for him. The Mets got eliminated from NL East division-winning contention, but Game 3 they still won 9-2. Michael Gibbons came back. He opened the game with a solid scoreless inning. Mark Canha hit a 3-run homer. James Mccann hit a 3-run homer. Lindor collected 3 RBIs to go up to 107 on the year. And the big story here was Trevor Williams throwing 6 innings to clean it up for the bullpen, but likely solidify a no shot at the wild card roster there. He could be on the DS roster. I'd be surprised if he wasn't, but after this, he's going to be unavailable at least through the weekend, so we won't see him in Mets Padres. Terrence Gore got a hit. Got to make a note of that because I love when that happens. And the Mets sweep the Nationals. They get to 101 wins, which is the second highest total in club history.
Nice job. And nice job by the Mets. Way to close out the season, man. That was a team that was far inferior to you, and you dominated. Huge shout out to Francisco Alvarez, who I'm sure we're going to touch upon later, but he looked fantastic. He looked like he got the butterflies pretty much out, and he looked great. Big time home run for his first one.
Shot.
So, so that was cool and a good way to end it. Momentum.
And we did not see Jeff McNeil in the last game because he was busy cleaning up the MLB batting title. He got his average up to 326 with a late September surge. Freddie Freeman kind of had a slump, although he did get 3 hits in his last game. But McNeil beats Freeman. He bats 326 on the season. It's the second National League batting title in Mets history and the first MLB batting title. So Jeff McNeil with a high honor there. And the season-to-season swing, but 8 months ago, we were talking about trade rumors for Jeff McNeil. I'm sure if we heard those rumors now, we'd scoff at them.
Scoff. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, again, I'm so proud of myself. I stuck by Jeff McNeil in trade rumors because this is the potential. This is repeatable. His style of baseball is repeatable.
Yep. I absolutely
and it's invigorating, and if you're on the opposing side, infuriating. Good for him, man, winning a batting title. Not only did he win the National League, but he was the MLB batting title. So that's pretty legit. Freddie gave it a go.
Yeah, he really did.
He made him sweat. He almost had to get some ABs in and get a hit, which would have been cool to see too, because but yeah, that's a big honor. 101 wins too, man. Second most in franchise history.
Yep.
Only the 4th time they've gotten triple digits. It's incredible. Heck of a season.
It shouldn't be understated. And I know the last week brought some storm clouds for Mets fans. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't appreciate everything that was accomplished this season. Jeff McNeil is just at the top of the list right now because, batting title is a big deal. We had 3 guys in the top 5 for on-base percentage. Francisco Lindor had maybe the best shortstop season by a Met ever. Alonso tied Judge for RBI. Nimmo set career highs across the board. Eduardo Escobar was Player of the Month in September, and Buck Showalter, he's had a lot of seasons managing baseball teams. This was the most wins he had ever gotten in a single season with our Mets.
Pretty impressive. Heck of a season.
Hell yeah. But the season's not over, and I'm very used to the season being over in the first week of October and not caring about what comes next. But the Mets, even though they didn't win this division, are headed for the National League wildcard game, their first playoff game in 6 years since they last played in a National League wildcard game against the San Francisco Giants. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, man. The Padres coming into town. We were right before we came on the air. The Mets put out a little hype video, and Joelli was like, "This is nice. It's not a thank you fans video. This is the hype video for the postseason." He goes, "I'm not used to it." So that's pretty dope. It's exciting.
It's the name of it, man. I'm just not used to it. I tweeted this morning that I forgot the feeling of waking up and be like, oh, there's a playoff game tomorrow. The Jomboy Media office is going to be absolutely buzzing. A lot of people coming in for the live stream lounge. We're going to be streaming ourselves watching the Mets game tomorrow night. Me, Jake, Joe's, the whole crew will be there. For those who didn't see our update on our Instagram and Twitter, I'm doing pregame and postgame live shows for the playoffs. Jerry will be doing those for SNY, which makes more sense. He's going to be on TV.
I know. I'm leaving you out by yourself.
That's okay. And we'll be coming with you guys for full episodes after every playoff game. So there's going to be a lot of Shea Station content coming your way. And this is just the beginning point of it. And the Mets kind of made some noise because they announced their game 1 starting pitcher pretty early. And it wasn't the guy who maybe a lot of people were expecting. Instead, the ball is going to go to Max Scherzer in game 1 of the wildcard series against Yu Darvish. Do you have any thoughts on Jacob deGrom not getting the game 1 ball?
Yes. I think it's more about versatility. I think Max Scherzer is, despite his body and recent woes about his side, I think he gives the Mets the most opportunity for versatility on coming back on short rest if possible, throwing out of the bullpen. DeGrom's every 5th day kind of guy, especially early on when there's a lot of movement going on. So I think it's strategic, and it's something, we talked about this yesterday on the post game. It's give Buck Showalter all the tools you can, all the tricks, all the ability to maneuver things. Let him take full advantage, because he's not only going to put the other team at a disadvantage, but he's going to put all of his players at their peak ability to take advantage of whatever situation. So I personally would have loved DeGrom to start because I feel he's deserving of it. He's the new franchise guy.
Mm.
And I still think he's the best pitcher on the planet. But I get it. It's the right answer, I think, because of the ability for versatility.
Yeah, I think there's also no wrong answer. You go with playoff experience or you go with the guy who's got the nastiest stuff in the entire game. Either way, it's a win-win. And the acquisition of Chris Bassett makes this all possible because now you have some scenarios that can play out where if you win game one, you can be a little bit more strategic with how you use DeGrom going forward. The big caveat of falling to the National League wildcard spot was that the Mets didn't really get a chance to set up their rotation they want to if they do make this NLDS. And there's an argument for focus on the series at hand or focus for the entire playoff run if you're trying to win the World Series. But if Scherzer goes out and he wins game one, Buck has, like you said, a lot of options. And, you want to give your manager as many options as possible. What would you do if you were the manager of the Mets and the Mets were up 1-0 in this wild card series?
I don't know. The choice is have Bassett go game two with the possibility to clinch, having Jacob deGrom open for game one of the DS.
Right.
That's everything working out perfect.
Yeah.
I probably would go deGrom game two personally because I don't want to mess around. I want to win if I can right now. It would give you the same amount of time off ready for those guys to be back on normal rest. And so right. I think giving yourself, if you're planning on going to the World Series, giving yourself as many Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer starts as possible is the way to go. Again, it's not a wrong answer to me, unless it fails.
Right.
I'm not. I want to see those guys as much as possible, but I get it. I'm a little bit more traditional. I'm interested to see. Hopefully, we get a chance to see that. Hopefully, Scherzer beats Darvish, and we get to see a deployment of a strategy. It's pretty exciting. So, but how would you do it?
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions because the first game of this set is going to be Friday, and the first game of a possible NLDS set is going to be Tuesday night. So that gives you about 3 days rest in between. So Scherzer, regardless, will not be ready for that first game. You can maybe get him in on short rest for game two. Me personally, I also don't really want to tempt fate, but at the same time, you didn't play this entire season to win the wildcard set. You played this entire season to win the World Series, and I think you have to put yourself in the best position going towards that. And I believe in Chris Bassett. I really do. I'm just as confident in Chris Bassett as I am these other guys. Obviously, it varies in levels, but still, I believe Chris Bassett can go out there and throw up 6 zeros and give yourself a chance to win this game. So I think regardless of the decision, I'll be satisfied. If it's deGrom in game 3, that means he's facing a possible lesser opponent. That just raises your chances to win. And then Chris Bassett, he's great at yielding all the soft contact, and this is a light hitting Padres team, especially in September. So I think the recipe is there for the Mets to find success here, but I think a lot of it is going to be hingent on this Scherzer and Darvish matchup in game 1, specifically because Darvish kind of kicks the Mets' butt, and he has his entire career.
I like it. I agree with that. Yeah, they've been the acquisition of Soto and Josh Bell and Brandon Drury hasn't sparked their offense quite as much. I still think, boy, are they missing Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah, yes, they are.
It's wild. But they're still formidable. They can be pitched to, though. This isn't an untouchable lineup, but they are better than I think they look on paper.
Yeah, I
in
think
general,
I
think they're some grindy kind of guys, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment because you don't want to judge your playoff opponent on paper. They played the entire 162. They got here for a reason, one way or another. Scherzer, and I want to actually, before we go into the probables and stuff like that, the Mets went 2-4 against this Padres team during the season. It's the only playoff team besides the Braves that the Mets had a losing record against in the National League. And I will say, a lot of people are going to that number, but those were also the games where you had Travis Blankenhorn out there. JD Davis was getting some reps. This was not the same Mets team that we had in the second half. Also, no DeGrom. DeGrom didn't get to face them this season. This was before he
I went back and watched those like video scouting, looking at Darvish, breaking up some Darvish video. And I was like, Travis Blankenhorn. I forgot that human was a New York Met. I did. I think
he got one game a run. I felt kind of bad for him. He had a great year at AAA though.
Hey man, yeah, it's hard out there. Yeah, it's a tough life.
Tough team to crack, these New York Mets.
It's a tough nut to crack.
Scherzer did get the one start against the Padres at home, through 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 1 home run, and 8 strikeouts. Mets lost that game 4-1. It was right after the All-Star break where the offense was absolutely ice cold, and then it kind of broke apart with that Pete Alonso home run against Musgrove. But Scherzer has the most playoff experience of anybody on this roster. That's why I feel like the Game 1 decision was great there.
I mean, DeGrom's got a lot as well. He's also pitched in a World Series.
But also from 7 years ago, man. It's been a while.
It's still experience.
Yeah, that's true. The last time DeGrom pitched in the playoffs, he had long hair.
That's true.
It's pretty crazy to think about.
He didn't have any Cy Youngs yet.
No, he had no Cy Youngs. He had a Rookie of the Year, but that's about it. But Darvish against the Mets this season has been pretty incredible. 14 innings pitched, 1 earned run. He won both of his starts, struck out 15 guys to just 1 walk. And he's kind of always had the Mets number. He's 5-0 in his career, 57 innings and a 2.56 ERA, 58 punchies to 9 walks. This is about the worst ace the Mets could possibly draw out of maybe any of the guys they could have faced here. But that doesn't deter the team, I don't think. And I mean, it's going to be rocking in Citi Field. I'd be surprised if this game had more than like 6 runs scored total.
I'm open to other opportunities and outcomes. I think so. Darvish is an interesting pitcher. He's like a mix between all 3 of the Mets aces.
Interesting.
He throws 1,000 pitches like Bassett.
Mm-hmm.
He is pretty intelligent in attack mode the way Scherzer goes about it, and he has some excellent stuff, like, not on the DeGrom level, but he's got good stuff. His fastball can run up there. He's got Scherzer's age too. Him and they're all a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can be got, man. I think his mix, his tendencies, his habits of how he goes about guys are very, like, he throws a ton of pitches, but he doesn't walk guys, especially this year. He's had maybe arguably his best year of his career, and that's saying something. But I think you can get to him.
I definitely think you can.
He also hasn't had a great track record in the playoffs, so you know what I mean. So he's had some struggles pitching down the stretch. So there's hope.
I actually kind of forgot about that murky playoff record, but you are right. He's thrown 7 games started in the playoffs in his career, 33 innings and a 5.18 ERA.
Is the Astros start in there?
So 2 Astros starts are in there.
That was cheating time. That was cheating time too. And I think that might have messed him up for the later run. I think that ruined his confidence because they were cheating.
So if we take out the World Series games, then I'm also going to omit the 2020 wild card game against the Marlins, because do you remember that? I don't personally. His last meaningful playoff game where there wasn't any cheating going on was the 2017 NLCS. With those 4 starts, it's 23 innings and a 3.52, which is more what you'd expect.
That's beatable.
Yeah, that's beatable for sure, especially if you work him to 6 pitches for every batter. And the Mets have some hot hitters going right now, especially Jeff McNeil. And we have the notable pitcher-batter matchups that I dug up on StatHead for every single guy against Scherzer and every single guy against Darvish. Do any of them stand out to you right off the bat?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me pull that up in your notes. It's good. So there's 2 that stand out to me. One is Pete Alonso's 2 for 10, but he only had 3 punch outs. If you're getting dominated by a guy, especially the way Pete Alonso swings and misses, you would have more strikeouts. He got noticeable. Eduardo Escobar struggled big time against him, but he can run into some balls. But the one that stands out to me is Jeff McNeil is 1 for 11 on the negative side. That was a shocker to me.
It's a very strange McNeil line too, because it's 1 for 11 with a home run, which is what?
Yep. So it's those cutters in. It's the cutters in, because that is where Jeff McNeil is most vulnerable, is from the inside part of the plate to his belly button, legitimately. If you throw it anywhere in there, he's so good at hitting the ball that he will swing the bat at all those, and he gets a lot of weak contact from McNeil, but he'll know that going in. On the positive side, it's our boy Francisco Lindor. Stood out 5 for 16, a double, 4 RBI, 2 walks, only 5 Ks. I like that. That's a solid approach. So,
yeah, I definitely like the guys that you highlighted. Lindor, we know, is a big time playoff hero type player. He's great under the lights. So I'm hoping with his first Mets playoff game, which is so exciting, that he really shows out against Darvish. The only other one I wanted to highlight on the Mets side is a shocking name for sure to be highlighted.
Don't say it. I know what you're going to say. And he had a hot last game too, right?
I gotta say it, dude. I really gotta say it. James Mccann against Utah.
I love you, James Mccann. I appreciate you. But
he's a great guy.
Are you pulling
I don't know what I want.
A ninja act here, because he hit a huge home run.
Yeah.
I think he got 2 knocks.
3 knocks.
His last 3 knocks in the last game of the year. Looked great.
You know why? Do you know why? He was playing first base. That's why.
That's the key. Yeah, so that'll be interesting, because I think Nito's the guy. I don't care what McCann's numbers are. Nito's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Nito should be starting all 3 of these games, but McCann against Darvish, 4 for 10, a double, 2 home runs, 5 RBI, and a walk. It's definitely interesting.
Nito starting before the Brave series, but in that Brave series, he had good at-bats every time. He hit the ball hard almost every time. He's been locked in. I like what I've seen out of Nito enough in James McCann's history. I'm starting Nito, although that is very enticing.
Yeah, I mean, it makes the decision all the more difficult for Buck. The rest of the guys kind of have scattered hits here and there. Nobody has an egregiously bad record against Darvish. It's just a lot of inconsistency, nothing really popping out besides the guys that we mentioned. And it's kind of similar on the other side. You know, Scherzer has dominated a lot of the Padres regulars. Jake Cronenworth is 0 for 13 with 4 strikeouts. Drury 1 for 11 with 3 punch-outs. Grisham 2 for 15 with 3 punch-outs. One that stood out to me, which I think is going to be a huge benefactor, is that Scherzer has handled Manny Machado in a large sample size. Machado is just 8 for 50 against Max Scherzer, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 20 strikeouts. Machado against Scherzer in his career. Pretty wild.
Pretty wild. And that's the key. Yeah. Machado is their MVP. Machado is their best player right now.
Yep.
They have a guy named Juan Soto too, who bats left-handed. He hasn't had the great year that you would expect, but he still is an absolute weapon. You cannot approach him the same way or any different than you would last year. Right. Because he's still getting on base. So to me, that's the 2.
Yeah. Machado in the postseason in his career, he's a 200 hitter with a 250 OBP and 125 plate appearances. So the large guy that I'm looking at here is definitely Juan Soto, of course, especially because we just haven't seen Juan Soto in a while, and we're very used to seeing him often, which I don't know if is going to be a benefactor or something bad for the Mets instead. But a guy we talked about a lot at the trade deadline as somebody that we definitely wanted to add to our team, specifically the lineup as a switch hitting DH, is Josh Bell, who hasn't had a great Padres tenure by any means, but he does have terrific numbers against Max Scherzer. So definitely expect him to be high up in this lineup. 5 for 12, 3 doubles, a homer, 4 RBI, and 3 walks. Bell did not have the Padres tenure that I think everybody was expecting him to.
Batted under 200.
192 clip and a 587 OPS for him in the brown and yellow. Pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But those are the guys that you should be looking out for on the Padres.
Drury too, I think. I think he's still a wild card, man.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he's a solid hitter. He's got a good approach. He's probably gonna think of one pitch in one spot, and if he gets it, he's dangerous, man. He had 28 homers on the year,
Yeah, I
almost
mean,
30.
he was honestly not bad for the Padres by any means. I mean, the batting average is low, but 9 doubles, 8 homers, a
Yeah,
109 OPS plus. That's pretty good. And I mean, he was terrific for the Reds. He had a really good year, honestly.
best year of his career. He played, in the most games. He had a really solid year.
Yeah.
Even his down kind of post trade deadline, he still had an OPS plus of 109, which is
Yeah.
9% higher than average. So
Yeah. Nothing to scoff at by any means whatsoever. This is going to be the marquee matchup of the wild card series. I'm sure most fans would agree. It's got the night slot for all 3 games. It's got the best pitching matchups, in my opinion. And the Mets have some playoff roster questions that they're going to need to answer by, I think, 12 p.m. tomorrow. So this will come out before then for sure. We have some locks that we think are definitely going to make the team, but we also have like a lot of fringe candidates that we're going to have to go from probably 34 guys to 26 guys. So 8 guys are going to get their heart broken. Why don't you go through the locks for the playoff roster that we have picked out?
yeah. So Nimmo, Alonso, Lindor, McNeil, Escobar, Vogelback, Canna, Guillorme, Nito, Terrence Gore.
Yeah.
I think that's a lock. I think Tyler Naquin is probably a lock because of his ability to play defense and hit left-handed.
Yep.
And have speed on the base paths. And in that, Terrence Gore, this is why you've been around, my man. This is your destiny. The speedy man himself. And then you've got the pitchers. You've got DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett. Those are your 3. Then you've got the bullpen, starting with Diaz, Trevor May, Ottavino, Seth Lugo, and Drew Smith.
Yeah.
Now, those are your locks.
I think that's our mutually agreed, like 19 guys. Those guys are going to be there tomorrow night for sure.
Yeah, those are your guaranteed. There's a lot of probably gonna be's included in there, but these are the guys that you, regardless of what's going on, if they're healthy, they're on the roster.
Yeah, so let's quickly go through those probably gonna be's as well. The one guy that I omitted that's probably gonna be there is James Mccann. I think we can both kind of agree on that.
As much as I agree with you. I think it's an easy James Mccann. You have to, because he's the only other catcher that I would feel comfortable with this pitching staff. He's been there all year. He's done a great job behind the plate. He's a leader of this clubhouse. His offensive woes, outside of the fact that apparently he owns Yu Darvish.
Apparently.
He's a piece.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely agree. I think it's too soon to have Francisco Alvarez behind the plate catching a game, although he did do it in the final series. And I mean, this is maybe a problem the Mets avoid if they call him up a little bit sooner, but hindsight's 2020, whatever. That being said, I mean, let's keep it on the hitters here, because I mean, I personally want to see Francisco Alvarez on this roster, and I think I want to see him more than I want to see Darren Ruff.
I have a feeling that Darren Ruff is playing the outfield against Blake Snell.
Whoa, that is a take, man.
I think he'll be out there against Blake Snell.
I mean, the Mets did say he'll be healthy for this series, but that they didn't confirm if he was going to be a part of it or not. I think we're kind of in mutual agreement that it's probably not going to be Mark Vientos getting a start in these games. Maybe he'll be a roster spot.
Yeah.
But I mean, Darren Ruff in, I guess, right field, left field here, to take out Guillorme and put McNeil at second. Is that the plan?
I think it would be, I don't know, maybe Canna off that lineup. And no, it couldn't be, because it'd be Blake Snell. So maybe Guillorme out. Yeah.
Because I think in this event, maybe you take Vogue. Yeah, Vogue's not going to play against the lefty there. And maybe you just DH Ruff and keep everything as is. McNeil stays in right. But
I think Guillorme would be out.
You think Guillorme would be out too?
Yep.
So I guess the two alternatives here is you use Alvarez as the DH and Guillorme stays in against the lefty, or you use Ruff, you get Guillorme out of there, put Ruff in right field, Mcneil at second, but then who becomes your DH in that scenario? Is it Mark Vientos in that case?
Is it Francisco Alvarez?
Maybe it's both.
To me, yeah, I think it
Interesting.
might be both. Because
Oh,
I
okay.
think to me, Francisco Alvarez is on this team.
Yeah, I think we can agree on that.
I
sure.
saw enough of him at the plate in that to know that he's dangerous enough to, in a pinch hit situation, he's not going to get a start.
No.
Maybe a start at DH, but he's dangerous enough to have a weapon lower in that lineup.
Yeah.
Like, it is something that's, you can't just automatic out. He's a guy that you have to be dangerous to. The number one reason why I locked him into my roster is because he took so many walks in this series against the Nationals. He took close pitches. He looked like a complete hitter there, and I was even more impressed. He didn't have to show me much, and he showed me more than enough because he hit the huge home run. He took walks. Just impressed with his approach and the power. That's what you want out of a guy off the bench. A DH possibility is the ability to drive the ball out of the ballpark, and he is more than capable.
Absolutely agree there. And I think we're talking about this conundrum with Blake Snell because it's not looking like Starling Marte is going to be a part of this wild card round at the very least. We're hoping we'll get him back for the NLDS if we do make it there. Buck Showalter's quote was, "I'm never going to say never, but it is a long shot. You can't swing a bat. You can't throw a ball. It's going to be hard." So that
he doesn't look like he can grip anything. He can't, like, it's just so painful.
Yeah.
So I don't see him anytime soon.
So I'm taking him off our little fringe list here, updating it as we go. So we're at 21.
Where are we at? We're at 21?
21 guys. I think let's shift it over to the bullpen probables, I think. Because there are a couple names that I think
so here comes the probables. It's the two guys that didn't make the rotation. That's Taiwan and Cookie. That's an interesting one. And then there's Trevor Williams, the other long guy, and he's out simply because he sacrificed himself on the altar of the last game of the season. He threw great. I'm sad for him that he's not going to be available to pitch in this because I like what he brings. He's been so good all season. Buck said it a bunch of times that he could, there's a bunch of players that could be our MVP. He's one of the names that could be our MVP. He's done, I can't remember the stat. It was something like 10 starts, 30 relief appearances, and a 3 or under, like something crazy like that. He was the only guy in Mets history to be able to do all those things. He's had an unbelievable year, and everybody that's listening to this understands because they've watched him pitch every day, so shout out to him, but sorry about that.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. And I mean, I get why, because you want to protect your bullpen the day before. The stat you mentioned before was the Jacob Resnick stat, who is the best at SNY. 20 relief appearances, 9 starts, and an ERA below 3.3. He's one of 4 guys to ever do it in Mets history. Pretty well. First guy since 87.
Was there the other names on there?
Yeah, let's see if you know these guys. We got Terry Leach, Pete Falcone, and Kevin Coble.
I don't know, but Pete Falcone sounds like I want to be his friend. I don't know why.
Kind of like a superhero name.
It's a dope name. It's Falcone. He sounds like a villain, actually. I think that might have been.
I think so. Doesn't have hero vibes to you? I can respect that. That's fine. So these 3 long guys, I don't think they're making the wild card roster, although we could definitely see them in future rounds.
I don't know. I don't know what Buck's going to do because Taiwan looks really sharp. He could be a weapon. So I think Taiwan's still kind of on the bubble. Okay. I don't think Cookie looked good enough to make this roster. Then you have Tommy Hunter, who wasn't healthy enough. That's still a guy that's got experience. You know what you're going to get from him.
Right.
And then we get to the 3 guys or the 4 guys that I think are coming. David Peterson and Joelli Rodriguez, the 2 lefties. They both pitched great down the stretch. You have a note here, Joelli Rodriguez, since the start of August. So that's 2 months.
Yeah.
He has a 2.74, given up 1 home run, and he has a 5.66 OPS against. That is incredible. That is very, very good. He's just done it. He was off my radar for a while, and then he just threw up zeros. In that same manner, the guy who made his return, Michael Gibbons, who started off atrocious and then was great
Yeah.
Since his acquisition, I think he makes the roster too. I think he's a trusted guy at the lower end of that bullpen.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Michael Gibbons, but after he kind of had a blow up game in the prior Brave series to the last one, he just turned it on. His last 12 games, 15 innings, 2 earned runs, and 14 punch outs. And I mean, this is the vision they had when they traded for him to obviously be a very reliable middle relief guy. So Peterson and Rodriguez give you some left-handed options, although I think every Mets fan knows that Seth Lugo is actually like the true lefty reliever here, if you can call him that. But I think these three guys, they make the most sense, and it puts your bullpen number at 8, which I think is a pretty good spot. And that takes your roster to 24 guys. But I would be shocked if any of these guys did not end up making the cut for the Mets.
So plug those guys in. We have an 8-man bullpen right now,
which I like.
Right.
Big
so fan. That is a 26-man roster. You still can only do 13 pitchers, right. But in a shortened series where you only have 3 games max, do you need a long guy?
I don't know.
And I think Peterson might be that emergency long guy.
It might be Taiwan, dude.
That's what I'm thinking. Taiwan showed enough ability to strike guys out. His stuff was so sharp. He looked incredible the last couple of starts. Again, the numbers weren't great in his second to last start, but he was awesome in his last one as well. Splitter was filthy, and he went to it. His velo was back up 92, 95, touching 96. So I think he might make it. So he's the last guy to me. I think Tyler McGill, unfortunately, is on the outside looking in. Yeah. He never made that transition that we thought he would. I'm not sure he's all the way healthy. He doesn't look like he can reach back or trust his body to perform. He just didn't look as sharp as I wanted him to, as I'm sure he wanted to be. So I think he's out as well. So the last spot, you might get 8 relievers and 3 starters. So that's 11. Or you might get Taiwan there as like a security blanket.
Yeah. I think we've agreed with our 24 here. I think we might differ on these last 2 because I think I want to add one more pitcher and one more hitter. I think my pitcher is Taiwan, and even if you don't use him, I think it's really nice to have him there. We saw, I'm not willing it to happen by any means, but we did see Chris Bassett not get out of the 3rd inning against a contending Braves team. I don't think this Padres offense is as potent as that. But when you're in a 3-game wildcard set, you need to give yourself the best chance to win every game, regardless of if you think you're getting blown out. And you don't have Trevor Williams, who I think I would normally use in that kind of spot. And I think you need Taiwan Walker over a guy like David Peterson. I think David Peterson's really settled nicely into his bullpen role, which I did not think was going to happen. I still have him in my brain as a starter. But Taiwan Walker has looked so good in September. And I just think that if you want to try and, mount a comeback, you're going to need a guy like that on the roster. But the hope is that by adding him here, that I don't end up using him, because then I can use him in the NLDS. That's my hope.
I don't hate that. Yeah. I think it's safe. I'm still not sold on more position players. So you said you wanted one more position player. Who you going with as your?
It's tough because Vientos doesn't look great. He does give you a little infield versatility, but it's not like you're taking out a guy like Eduardo Escobar. He's playing in all these games for sure. And Darren Ruff, he's had some playoff moments, man. He had a big home run in the NLDS last year off Julio Urias, who's a great pitcher. He looked good in the past, and they kind of fulfill the same right-handed DH role of hitting the lefties. And maybe this IL stint has reset Darren Ruff in some way. Maybe it's kind of given him a chip on his shoulder. With great reluctance, I think I would say I'm going to give the last spot I have to Darren Ruff.
I agree with that. Okay, I agree with Darren Ruff. I do.
Yeah. So we're in full agreement then.
It's a tough one because he's been nothing but abysmal in a Mets uniform.
Yeah.
And it has not worked out at all, which is why we got a taste of Francisco Alvarez.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I'll say. If he goes out there and has a moment in the playoffs, no one is going to remember.
It's all worth it.
No one's going to remember what he did in the regular season. I promise.
If anything, it makes it better.
It makes it a better story for sure.
Yeah.
And Darren Ruff has not hit a home run with the Mets, but he is the kind of guy that could just find one and pull it. And he's got good to decent numbers against these Padres pitchers. And you traded a lot to get him for him to not be on this playoff roster. So I just think it makes the most sense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But I don't know if I'd start him. I don't know if I could start him in any of these games. Maybe like as a pinch hitter, but I don't know if I can.
I don't think I could either, but I think they're going to. I don't know why. I feel like
That's
he's
Buck.
the guy. Yeah, but I think I'm going to agree with you because the only other move that I would make would be I like that Mark Vientos gives them a little bit of security blanket in the infield versatility defensively.
Yeah.
Just an extra guy gives them an opportunity to pinch hit earlier, do whatever the case may be. But I think you've convinced me. I think that our 26th guy is Taiwan Walker.
Yeah, I'm glad we're kind of in the same boat there. I think in a perfect world, Brett Beatty is healthy, and you can use him here to give yourself a little bit more versatility off the bench.
So we both going rough in Taiwan.
The options were Ruff versus Vientos and Taiwan versus Cookie, and I think it's Ruff and Taiwan is the winning formula there.
I agree. So that's
we'll see if they make an impact.
Man.
We'll see. I mean, we're gonna find out at noon tomorrow if we absolutely nailed it or if we were way off. Also, if some guys are healthy or not, because that could definitely change part of the equation here. But it's fun to talk about these things. It's fun to not give a retrospective and talk about free agency and talk about other teams that are in the playoffs. It's fun to be.
This is where we were last year. As a young Mets fan, this is your first real playoff experience as like I mean, the coined phrase is die hard, but as a true everyday watching New York Mets fan, are you excited? Are you nervous? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, 2015 was so sudden and kind of out of nowhere, and it went just so much longer than I expected that I don't think I really got to process it, enjoy it as much as I would have liked to. And then 2016 was kind of just one game, so you can't really count that. You're just out of it.
It was one swing in my memory.
Yeah, really, that's all it was. So this really does feel like my first real playoff run in a while. 2006, I was way too young to really appreciate that either. Being in the city, working in the city, being around a lot of baseball personalities and baseball minds, I feel very lucky. And I'm also incredibly nervous because this feels like it could be a 2 and out, or it feels like it could be a month of my life that is going to be filled with stress, but it's a good kind of nervous.
Good nervous. This is, I'm nervous too. Like I'm invested. We all are. Yeah. You've been to so many games this year, like the most ever.
Yep.
Mingling, enjoying and your fandom. And it's like so fun to be at a ball game. I forgot like how cool it is to come in and root for a baseball team. Like it's so fun. I've covered it from a couple of different angles this year for the first time in the booth. Pre and post game was wild. Did some radio for another squad. Like I've done so many different things in baseball, and I am in maybe even more in love with the sport now that I'm done playing. I really enjoy this part of my career, so I'm looking forward to it. But I'm a fan of the New York Mets and the Oakland A's. I openly root for both of these franchises. And having such close ties to players that are still on that roster. I mean, I have former teammates that are still there, like a lot of them. I play with a lot of those guys. I got some other guys on the Padres. I mean, Craig Stammen is my college teammate at Dayton. We've known each other since 2003, I think. So we played together for the Nationals. Bob Melvin is my favorite manager. I was going to
say.
Yeah, my favorite manager I've ever had. Drury and I shared a clubhouse. Profar and I shared a clubhouse. So it's fun being a fan, but I'm invested in this New York Mets team. I'm excited for what their possibilities, their capabilities are. And Yeah, man, I'm just really, really pumped to start some. This is going to be a really fun playoff series outside of just us loving the New York Mets as a baseball fan and in general. There are some lot of really fun stories from the
Yes.
Mariners, their drought, the Phillies and their drought, Pujols and Wainwright and Yachty. Like there's tons of fun to be had
Yeah.
in baseball. Aaron Judge and 62, like it's wild. It's going to be fun. The Guardians, people like Mets fans should
The
be
youngest
rooting
team
for
in
the
baseball.
Guardians.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, my dream is a Mets Guardians World Series. I think that is the most poetic for any Met fan. They're the youngest team in baseball, and they made the playoffs. They won their division. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Now, if you want to say the Mets collapsed down the disappointment that is the Chicago White Sox is a whole other
Yeah.
tidbit. But
We can talk.
the
We can talk about
Guardians
actual
are the
collapsing.
Guardians play baseball. Like this is a little, off Shea Station here, but the Guardians play baseball like the New York Mets play
They
baseball.
definitely do.
They have a great pitching staff. Their bullpen is fire. If you made an argument that Clase is better than Diaz, I mean, it's an argument that can be had. It's
Sure.
shocking as it can be. And they have, two former Mets in the middle of the heart of their team with Andres Jimenez and Ahmed Rosario, and Tito Francona, their leader, is one of the best baseball old school. Him and Buck Showalter, they don't make him like that anymore.
Nope,
So
they do not, and that's why Cleveland has held tight to him ever since they
yes,
got him.
He's literally as an open invite to coach and be a manager as long as he wants. He's
Absolutely.
got some health issues, so I hope he's all right, for a while, because what a turnaround that's been.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you said. The storylines kind of run rampant with all these playoff teams. I saw some people complaining about the new format and how it kind of dwindled the races down the line, but now you have so much more postseason baseball and more teams to look at and fawn over. I mean, you have the Yankees and Astros trying to get back to the ALCS. You have the youngest team in baseball winning their division. The Rays have lost 5 games in a row going into their playoff matchup. The Blue Jays are starting Alek Manoah over the guy they signed for $120 million to be their ace. And that's just the American League. I mean, a lot of Mets are getting their first playoff game ever tomorrow. Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil, Vogelback, I believe, is on that list as well. Guillorme, Nito, all these guys are getting their very first taste of October baseball. And I'm hoping it's a long run for them. And if it's not, I hope it leaves them hungry and wanting more so they can come back next year and get back to the spot.
Yeah, man. It's exciting, and none more so than the New York Mets versus the San Diego Padres.
Yep.
It's going to be fun. There's going to be 2 sets of beautiful uniforms on that field. I hope Citi Field shows up. I know there was some talk about the attendance being down and not as exciting down the stretch, but I expect the Mets fans to show out. It's supposed to be nice too.
Yeah.
So I expect them to show up and show out and make Citi Field rock like I've been there, and it's intimidating as a visiting player. So I'm excited.
Jerry, I got one last trivia question for you before we head off.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
There's one guy this season that has played for both the Mets and the Padres. Who is it? It's a tough question.
That is a tough question.
Buried in your memory of the 2022 Mets.
Oh, well, give me a shot clock, because
he played with the Mets in April and he played with the Padres in like June.
Position player.
Yep.
Did we name Blankenhorn?
It's not Blankenhorn.
I don't know.
It's Robinson Cano.
Oh shit! I totally forgot about that. Don't you bring that name into poison? Don't you poison this?
He didn't make
episode?
our roster. Shit. God damn. I can't believe I forgot about him.
That's funny though. Yeah, that was years ago.
Yeah, I know. It feels like an absolute lifetime ago.
Get excited, Mets fans. This is fun. We're there. We have made it through 101 wins on the regular season. Now we're back to square one. Everybody is 0-0. Let's go.
Absolutely. So we will be live, or I will be live tomorrow, before the game, after the game. If you get enough of me, go to SNY, go watch Jerry. He'll also be live on TV. Talking Baseball, hosting the live stream for tomorrow's wild card set at night. I believe at 7 p.m. is when we're going to go live. I'll be there. All other Jomboy Media faces will be there as well. Lots of content coming your way, Shea Station fans. Buckle up. Remember to have fun. And if you're nervous, that's probably normal. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. LFGM. Quick. Who's the MVP of this series?
The MVP of this series?
Yep, from the Mets.
5 seconds to answer. It's going to be Mccann.
Oh, I'm going Lindor.
Okay, that's fair.
Sure.
Definitely fair. All right.
All right,
See
buddy.
who's red, man. We'll see.
Let's do it.